He is the charismatic leader and bishop of a Columbus-based church with followers across the world and here in Northeast Ohio. But tonight, secrets are revealed.
The investigator Tom Meyer is uncovering allegations of sex abuse against the man many feel is the closest thing to Jesus. Hi, Tom.
Sarah, victims are breaking their silence, talking exclusively to us. A warning, some language is explicit and inappropriate for children.
And when I looked, he had pulled out his penis fully erect.
Men of the Church of the Living God International say, "Me too." They're breaking their silence to accuse a powerful figure of sexual misconduct.
Then if I get in trouble, let me bear my own burden.
The Reverend Joseph White is the founder and presiding bishop of the Columbus-based church, which has ties in Northeast Ohio. Claims of sexual abuse against White go back decades.
Like all predators, he preyed on people who he thought were vulnerable for one reason or another.
Attorney Tyler Fox represented victims in the Catholic Church sex scandal and now represents some of Bishop White's victims.
We've been groomed to believe that this man is the closest thing to Jesus.
They were minors and young men at the time of the abuse.
There were comments that were made that he is the holiest man on the earth.
3 victims in Ohio declined to talk on camera. So the Channel 3 investigative team packed their bags and headed to Atlanta, where we connected with 3 more victims who decided time's up for Bishop White.
Dr. White jumps on top of me like a man would be on top of a woman.
Lloyd Ocampo, Kevin Glover, and Travis Durham say the bishop sexually abused them at a time when they were most vulnerable.
He's bringing me and exposing me to pornography that he watches.
Durham was 17 when he says the bishop exposed his private parts while they were laying in bed.
And he started moving it around, and then he said, it's big, ain't it?
CLGI is a Pentecostal church with more than 100 locations in the U.S., Europe, and elsewhere. This is their headquarters in Columbus, where the bishop is senior pastor of CLGI, Pool of Bethesda.
All day long, yeah.
Some victims say White began showing them pornography when they were under 18, all part of the grooming process, they say.
His typical behavior is to walk around the room without any clothes on. And his typical behavior is to get in the bed with no clothes on.
Some victims say it may have felt wrong.
I'm thinking, it's me, it's me, it's me. That's why I've kept telling myself.
But they kept thinking this was the church's top leader, the founding bishop who preached the Word of God. Durham was 17 and confused when he says White began making sexual advances.
Didn't know what a father figure was, didn't know what love was.
There's an Ohio victim who also had a physical relationship with White beginning at age 17. A former church member shared a recording of a phone conversation she had with him. He says he was with White when he bought Viagra, took off his clothes, and began the grooming process. White may be a powerful man, but is he above the law? He told his congregation what the Lord said.
He said, and no matter what law may pass, no matter what decision people may make, he said, none of those laws can govern you because you are in the Spirit.
We reached out to Bishop White, who lives here in suburban Columbus. We emailed him and we called him 5 times, asking him to respond to the allegations. The bishop never responded.
Tom Meyer with Channel 3 News in Cleveland.
But we caught up with him as he pulled into the church parking lot in his Mercedes.
Some former church members, including minors, have accused you. Bishop White. Bishop White. Bishop White, just want to ask you about allegations that are being made against you.
They're not true.
They're not true? Can you elaborate?
White may have denied the allegations, but he had no interest in talking about them.
Victims tell me that you spent a lot of time grooming them to become sexually intimate, Bishop.
The church's board of directors said in a confidential memo last August that they're investigating allegations of inappropriate conduct against the presiding bishop. A church spokesman emailed late today and called the allegations against Bishop White sensational and spurious. He said they were made to gain leverage in a financial dispute between CLGI and another church.
You've got part 2 of this report tomorrow night. What can we expect?
A number of victims are saying me too, breaking their silence on a new website and at Channel 3 and the investigator Tom Meyer. He's back with part 2 of a story you won't see anywhere else.
You feel like you're the only one. You may have your suspicions, but you're so afraid to talk to someone.
Kevin Glover accuses Bishop Joseph White of sexually abusing him. White is the founder and presiding bishop of the Church of the Living God International based in Columbus.
His typical behavior is to walk around the room without any clothes on.
Glover was stunned to find out that White was tossed out of the church for the same immoral conduct years ago. This 1994 letter obtained by Channel 3 details an earlier investigation by the Church of the Living God. The board wrote, quote, "The concern was the misconduct of Bishop White. He did not deny the charges."
The Bible said the flesh is sinful.
Instead of being turned over to law enforcement, White was allowed to form his own branch of the church just by adding international to the title. Church members outside Columbus, many stationed overseas like Glover, never got word White was kicked out or why. Bishop White said the church was simply expanding. The number of alleged victims continued to grow as well.
He would often expose himself to them.
Attorney Tyler Fox is representing men who have recently come forward.
For years, he was sexually abusing parishioners there, not only in the Columbus area and churches near Cleveland, but actually in other parts of the world.
You go in with your guard down.
Lloyd Ocampo was in the U.S. Air Force when he first met Bishop White. He says White framed predatory sexual behavior as, quote, church work. White would claim he was, quote, in the spirit while on the prowl.
We've been groomed to believe that this man is the closest thing to Jesus, so obviously there's a teaching moment in it, and obviously there's something spiritual we can garner.
And it's all under the umbrella of the work of the ministry.
You know what you call that? The lust of the flesh.
In 2017, the mother of one of White's alleged victims finally blew the whistle to the CLGI board. A few weeks later, the church sent out this letter to pastors and church elders saying, quote, "The board received allegations of inappropriate conduct by our presiding bishop made by 5 past and current members."
He comes when I need him most.
The church conducted an internal investigation last fall, but results have yet to be released.
I don't believe he's stopped, and I don't think he will stop.
Bishop White sounded defiant during a recent sermon.
You have been hearing about a letter that's going out. Now that letter is according to a law, some kind of a law. The Lord spoke to me and told me this morning, said, that law doesn't govern you.
For one to say that they're above the laws, that is very alarming, because sexual misconduct and harassment, they're crimes, in my opinion.
Last month, Glover walked away from his 20-plus years as a bishop for a CLGI church in Georgia. He says he's fed up with the cover-up.
There was no way that I was going to sit in with the board of directors as a bishop, knowing that there are many victims.
Bishop White ignored our repeated calls to get his side of the story. We caught up with him at church headquarters in Columbus.
Some former church members, including minors, have accused you. Bishop White, Bishop White, just want to ask you about allegations that are being made against you.
They're not true.
The church has been raising $1 million for Bishop White because of his 50 years of service. But the so-called 50 is million website was taken offline overnight. Also, we've learned 2 board members have resigned since we began poking around. I'm the investigator, Tom Meyer.
Is the controversial bishop of a worldwide church based in Ohio retiring? For the past couple nights, we've been uncovering allegations of sexual misconduct involving this powerful church leader. The investigator, Tom Meyer, learned he appears to be resigning, but he's not acting like it.
If I get in trouble, let me bear my own burden.
Bishop Joseph White is stepping down as presiding bishop of the Church of the Living God International, based here in Columbus. According to this letter dated December 15, 2017, he, Bishop White, formally submitted notification to retire. The board accepted his notification on November 18th.
He's bringing me and exposing me to pornography that he watches.
The resignation comes about the time when Channel 3 News began looking into allegations of sexual misconduct involving White. And while the letter says he's retiring, the bishop has presided over at least a couple dozen services since mid-December. On New Year's Eve, he indicated he's staying put.
But the devil's been fighting me. You know what he tells me sometime? He tells me sometime, well, why don't you just quit? And then I tell him, no, I don't think I can do that.
Just a few days ago, his sister took over the mic and sang the bishop's praises.
Don't call my bishop a sinner. Not when he was healing Down syndrome babies.
Bishop White.
We reached out to the bishop to clarify his position with the church. But like so many other times we tried talking to him, he either dodged our cameras or ignored our phone calls. Also, we've learned some of those who have donated to a campaign to raise $1 million for the bishop have now asked for their contributions back. Victims say White needs to be held accountable.
When a person is in a position of power, you tend to recognize them as such.
He clearly thought he could do what he wanted, and that's exactly what predators do.
And you know, if you go against the grain, that there will be repercussions for doing so.
A website for the Church of Living God International victims was launched in December. So far, there have been dozens of postings and nearly 103,000 page views. CLGI International has more than 100 churches with thousands of parishioners. Our stories are being broadcast in cities across the country. Sarah, Russ.
And good evening. Tonight, a major new development in the case of that controversial bishop accused of sexual misconduct.
Bishop Joseph White can no longer act in any official church capacity until allegations of sexual misconduct are resolved. The board said in this letter to its members that these are serious allegations. We must allow the legal process to work so that these issues can be settled by the courts and so that justice may be served. The board has placed Dr. White on leave from any official duties with the church until this matter is resolved. Attorney Tyler Fox says it's encouraging that finally the church and its board recognize that his client's allegations are serious and that sex abuse of church members, including minors, need to be addressed.
Bishop White.
While Bishop White has denied the allegations, Fox says he hopes the church will not wait for the courts to make things right. This means releasing the results of the church's investigation and terminating Bishop White immediately.
Bishop White.
Certainly, yeah, much of the conduct is criminal.
Earlier statements by the church indicated that Bishop White had resigned. So this latest action to put White on leave, as attorney Tyler Fox points out, is both confusing and ambiguous. Fox is demanding that White be fired immediately, Russ.